Well, hello and welcome. My name is Velma. You can connect with me at velmanolds.com. This is all about your leadership chat. What does that mean? You get to listen in on valuable insights from valuable leaders just like you. I want to encourage you to go ahead and subscribe so that you never miss another episode. And if this is of value to you, please share the nuggets that you're going to take away from all these great leaders. Please give a big welcome to my special guest and your valuable leader, Keven Paletta. Keven, welcome to your leadership chat.
Thank you, Velma. I'm thrilled and honored to be here.
Hey, I'm excited to have you here too. And you are in sunny Florida, correct?
Yes, I'm just up the road from you.
And I am in sunny Florida, so we are good to go. Well, let's kick things off here. Would you tell the listeners a little bit about you, Keven, and not only about you, but what you do?
Certainly. Well, right now I'm retired, so I live a blessed life. But
Yes.
Prior to retirement, I spent 35 years in the law enforcement business, all 35 years with the same department, Lakewood Police Department, which is a suburb of Denver. And the last 8.5 years at Lakewood, I was. Now, Lakewood's a little different than other departments with two notable exceptions. Lakewood was the first municipal agency in the country to require a 4-year college degree from its officers.
Huh.
And it has gone on to produce roughly 100 police chiefs from its ranks.
Wow.
So it's very significant in that regard. Like many of your guests, I too am a student of leadership. I got my in management with an emphasis on organizational development. And if I haven't mentioned it, I am retired.
Yeah, you did mention that one. I got that. Well, we lost you a little bit there on a couple of words, but hopefully it'll the Wi-Fi will strengthen up as we go along here. But first, let me say thank you so much for your service to all of us here in the United States and around the world. Thank you for what you do and what you've done. And then thank you to your family, too, because when someone serves, it is also, a sacrifice from the family because they serve with you. So Keven, as a student of leadership and someone that we've had a chance to chat before, so that's all good. And I love the things that you shared. I'd love for you to answer this question for the audience, and that is around, can you share with us who is a valuable leader in your life, that person, or maybe more than one, that has made that tremendous impact that you would say Keven would not be the man he is today without that person in your life? Who is that valuable leader, and why would you say that about them?
Certainly. Like many of your chat guests, I have two valuable leaders that I want to highlight. The first is my wife, Carolyn.
Okay.
When I was first testing for promotion at the Lakewood Police Department, I'd been with the agency 9 years. And it was a very daunting process. There were many candidates, and most of them had more experience than I did. And when I told my wife I decided to take on this endeavor, she was confident I would get promoted. She saw something in me that I didn't see in me.
Yeah.
And she began planning around the change in lifestyle that we were about to experience, which meant a change in schedule. And I think as leaders, it became clear to me in that situation that it's important for us to help people see in themselves. And that's what she did for me then. I know people might say that, well, she's your wife. Isn't she like contractually obligated to show confidence in you? But I think the fact that I eventually I was successful in that process, and I eventually progressed on to become a police chief, would say, well, at least her confidence in me was not misguided. And the other person go ahead.
I was going to say, you're so right in that we sometimes minimize the confidence and the encouragement that we get from those that are part of our family, or those that we love, or those that are near to us, because we tend to, sadly, I have to say this, we tend to sometimes dismiss, well, they love us or they're supposed to do that, but that's not necessarily the case. And
Yes, that's
I
true.
appreciate you bringing that up, that they don't have to do that just because they love you. It's because she genuinely, you know, Carolyn genuinely sees something in you, and knew that you could do it and was going to stand with you. So kudos
Yes,
to her. Thank you for sharing.
yes.
Yeah. And go ahead, please, your second valuable.
And the other one was a lieutenant that I worked for
Sure.
early on in my career as a police supervisor, and his name
Yeah.
was Pete Palmer. And I was very enthusiastic in my role, and I was always bringing new ideas or new programs or new services that we could offer to Pete. And let me give you a little background. Pete looks just like Mr. Clean, and he's a former Marine. So he's an imposing figure.
I
But
have
I
that
would bring
image in my mind.
your younger viewers they might have to research that.
Yeah, right.
But I would bring these ideas to Pete, and he would look at me and go, "Okay, I'm a citizen of Lakewood. What's in it for me?" And
Mm,
I learned quickly that any idea I had needed to be formed with the foundation of what's in it for the citizens of our community.
wow.
And I think that stuck with me as I progressed through the organization, and it probably became most prominent when I was a police chief,
Yeah.
because oftentimes the citizens are not sitting at the table with you. In fact, rarely are they sitting at the table with you. So everything that we did in the public sector needed to be viewed through the lens of how does this benefit the citizens? Not just how does this benefit employees or how does this make our life easier, but what's in it for the citizens? And I
Yeah.
think that's true in the private sector too.
Right.
What's in it for your clients? What's in it for your customers? Not just
Mhm.
what's in it for your employees.
Yeah.
And those two things, the confidence and the asking the question of what's in it for my constituents, are probably two themes that stayed with me.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that. And it's so true that, you know, if we tend to move in an act of service, when we serve others and say what's in it for them, that's when you're more of the leader. You're in that position of I'm here to serve someone else, and that answers the question right there. What's in it for whoever that is you're serving? Because then you become relevant, and when you're relevant to
Correct.
them, you become more useful. And when you're more useful, you become more valuable. And that's how you become the valuable leader. So you
So
you
true.
you took us there. You must have read my book or something. I don't know. I got a cheat sheet or something. I love
Yes.
that. I love that. All right. Well, you're doing great. My second question is, you know, you are a student of leadership. So that's one. And two, you've had two, probably more, but two we've highlighted on this episode, valuable leaders in your life. So my next question is, how does Keven now impact others to become valuable leaders themselves? How do you do that?
Certainly. I think I looked at this question from two perspectives. One was the formal process. The I was an academy instructor. I taught undergraduate criminal justice classes through local universities. I even was part of a team that created what we referred to as the Command College, which was training. It was kind of 101 for uh, public safety officers transitioning from first line supervision
Yeah.
into management, which is, I think most people would say is probably the biggest transition, because you're going from doing the job and supervising the doing of the job to something completely different, and that is the management of the operation. So
Mhm.
we created the Command College, but really giving back in terms of leadership for me was more about the informal part of it, and that was modeling the way as a leader. I
Mm.
really believe strongly that, you know, we have to model the way as leaders if we expect integrity from our employees, if we expect commitment from our employees, if we expect them to behave in a compassionate way.
Mhm.
We have to demonstrate those qualities in our leadership style. We have to demonstrate them in our personal style.
Yeah.
And the more that you can mesh your personal style with your professional style, the easier it is to make those things happen. So you can't be the leader who says, do as I say, not as I do. You have to be the leader that models what you want to see in your organization and employees.
Yeah. Let me throw a little curveball in there because I'm very interested in your thoughts on it specifically. Why do you think it's such a challenge for leaders to model, to sometimes step into that role and model the way? Why do you think some leaders struggle to model the way?
Oh, it's there's probably a litany of reasons. I think
Yeah.
one reason tends to be, and it causes me to think of another great leader that I worked with. It tends to be that as you progress through an organization, you have a higher expectation of yourself in terms of your skill set, and it's very
Mhm.
difficult if you're a police chief or you're a CEO or you're running a business to step aside and say, you know, I'm completely ignorant about that thing. Please inform me. Please help me understand what it
Yeah.
is that you're expected to know these things. And I think many
Mm.
times ego gets in the way of wanting to admit that maybe there's things that we can learn or do better.
Yeah.
I also think, you know, there's a lot of temptations, let's say, the
Mm.
higher up you go in organizations. And
Right.
it's easy to, you know, nobody's looking over your shoulder. It's easy to leave work early, or it's easy not to do things the right way because you're your own boss at that point. So I think many times we just fall to temptations of, and I don't mean scandalous types of temptations, but just maybe cutting corners or just not doing things quite the way you
Yeah.
would expect others to do it or yourself.
Okay. Yeah, you know, it's a lot of you hit on a really profound word there, and that is expectations. And I do believe that the more responsibility you have in an organization or in a community or in any environment, the greater the pressure, you know, is for you to perform at a certain level. There's certain expectations go with that rise in responsibility. And that level of expectation puts pressure, I think, on leaders to feel like they have to have all the right answers. You know, they have to know what to do next, and then ego creeps in, and that's the ego is the enemy of you know, of good and great. It's not just good but or great, but enemy of both. I think in essence, you fall short.
Correct. Correct.
What would be, you know, listeners always anticipate this particular part of the segment because they're like, okay, so what's in it for me? And you've already kind of said that's what we need to, you know, great, nice meeting Kevin and learning about people that have impacted his life and what he's doing. But now they're listening for what's that one big takeaway for me? Okay, so what's in it for me? And I love this part of the segment because I get a wide variety of perspectives. So, from Kevin's perspective, what would be one big takeaway that you would say, Velma, if I could tell your listeners anything, this is one thing I would tell them that would help them become more valuable leaders personally and professionally.
So excited about this part of the chat, Velma. I became familiar with something fairly late in my career, and it's a concept called procedural justice. And
Yeah,
if you'll indulge me just a little bit to explain the background behind this,
sure.
uh, procedural justice comes from the service industry, and it's basically the concept that how you treat people is actually more important than the outcome or what you did to them. And it was applied to policing most recently in the early 2010s by a professor out of Yale University named Tom Tyler.
Hmm.
And what he looked at was a concept called police legitimacy. How much does the public trust the police to do their job fairly and effectively?
Hmm.
And what he found was police legitimacy over 40, 50 years really hadn't moved the needle very much. We
Right.
hadn't gotten crime rates are down, really changed in terms of the public perception. Even when things are bad, even following George Floyd or Rodney King, police
Hmm.
legitimacy stayed somewhere in this 50 to 60% range. 50 to
Right.
60% of the country believed you're doing the job correctly. Well, they started to apply four principles of procedural justice, and this is the key takeaway for me. And I'm going to oversimplify them. So if Dr. Tyler ever sees this, I apologize in advance. but the basic four principles, which if we could incorporate into our personal DNA and our organizational DNA, I
Mhm.
think would be hugely impactful. And they are: do you listen? Do you explain? Are you fair? And are you respectful?
Mm.
Those are the elements of the process. The process itself needs to demonstrate listening, explanation, fairness, and respect. And in
Wow.
the end, if you do those four things throughout the process, even if the outcome was objectively negative, like I arrested you, or I gave you a ticket.
Mhm.
Even if that was the outcome, you actually think more highly of me than the general public because the process was
Right.
just.
Mm.
And that's the concept that I would hope leaders would embrace in a personal level.
Yeah.
I would hope that leaders would strive to find within their employees, but probably the most important aspect of that would be organizationally. Does your organization practice procedural justice? And that's really where I feel like the strongest takeaway. And I just, well, let me say two things about this. Number one, I think many leaders do this intuitively. They already do these things.
Right.
Good leaders,
Mhm.
many good leaders do this. But the second thing I'd like to say is that it could have a profound impact on the operations, the outcomes of your organization. You know, if I look at it from the public safety standpoint, if I want to pass a tax increase to benefit the police department, it sure helps if the community thinks highly of me.
Yeah, right.
If we do, I mean, we law enforcement has hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, millions of encounters with citizens, and
Mhm.
some of those are apt to go bad. It's
Mhm.
nice to know that you have a track record of doing the job
Right.
by demonstrating procedural justice.
Mm.
Then when something does go bad, the community's response isn't typical
Right.
police action. It's that's a little out of the norm for the agency I'm familiar with. So
Yeah.
that's my big takeaway, and I wish I'd
Okay.
learned it 20 years sooner.
Yeah, no, and I love it. And it's foundational. I mean, are you, are you listening to me? That's foundational. People want to be heard. People want you to explain why, right? They want to understand their why, the explanation side of things. So I think those two are profound in and of itself. Of course, people want to be treated with respect. I mean, they want you to respect each other. And you said one other one, and it was fairness. Was it if you be fair with me, right? If I know that,
Be fair.
be fair, it's that whole justice. It's, I know that you're treating me in a a fair way. And so I just love those. Those are great foundational principles that we could all live by to make an impact personally and professionally. So cool takeaway. Not just one, but we got four big takeaways. I count them
All
like
under
four.
the umbrella of procedural justice. And
Yes.
online
Proceed.
research will generate volumes about this, which,
Yeah.
like I said, can be applied to any organization.
Well, I love how you broke it down simple because I believe in taking, the complex and making it simple and using common sense to get uncommon results. So you knocked it on the head there for us, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank
Uh,
you.
well, we are meeting here, and I know others would love to learn more about you and learn about what you've done and what you are doing. So, what's the best way for someone to, stay close to learn more about Kevin?
Well, I think the easiest way for people to get in contact with me would be by email. And
Okay.
that's at Kev Paletta, KEVPALETTA at yahoo.com.
Okay.
And I'm always, I mean, I think leaders feel this way. I'm always happy to chat about leadership because it's really what excites me, even in my retirement years. If there's anything I can continue to give back
Yeah.
to the profession or other professions, I'm happy to do it.
All right. All right. All right. The guy gave us the email address. I mean, that's awesome. Thank you, Kevin, for doing that. I've had one other guest give their phone number. So, you are brave individuals, put your email out in social media, but thank you so much for being open to having others connect with you to learn more about what you do and how you can provide some valuable insight in their leadership journey as they go along. It's just been a fun ride for the short chat that we've had here today. I'm so excited to get to know you better and to be able to have you share with the audience. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for this opportunity, Velma.
Hey, thanks so much for watching another episode of Your Leadership Chat. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button here and tap that bell icon so that you never miss another episode. I hope too that you'll give us a thumbs up on the video for a like. And then if you feel led, please share the video with those who need to see it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Your Leadership Chat. Bye for now.